You're lying down now, eyes soft, breath a little slower than before. Around you, the lights have faded, and the outside world has politely bowed out for the night. All that remains is this quiet place, this story, and you, half listening, half drifting. Thank you for joining us on the boring science for sleep. If your eyes are already beginning to lose interest in staying open, that's exactly what we like to hear. Before you nod off completely, feel free to gently press that like button. It doesn't make a sound, we promise. Maybe subscribe, too, if this kind of very polite storytelling is your thing. And if you're still awake enough to lift a thumb, let us know where you're listening from and what time it is. We like imagining the little constellation of sleepy humans scattered around the globe. Now, let's ease into tonight's journey. You are floating. Not metaphorically, not romantically, just literally floating above the Atlantic. The sky is the color of oversteeped tea, and the ocean below you spreads like an endless blanket left to wrinkle in slow motion. There's no storm, no drama, just a quiet, ever-humming expanse where the wind feels too bored to cause any real trouble. This is the Bermuda Triangle, a stretch of water framed loosely by Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. It has no fences, no signs, no dramatic kraken warnings, but for decades it has enjoyed a PR campaign most vacation spots would kill for. Disappearances, theories, spooked-out sailors. It's like an all-you-can-myth buffet. You'd think the water here has a taste for aircraft and hubris. You glance around the airspace, imaginary goggles on. You see seagulls, seemingly uninterested in mystery. A half-eaten sandwich floats serenely on a scrap of driftwood, and off in the distance, the ghost of a cargo plane yawns, still wondering what went wrong with the compass that day. See, the Bermuda Triangle isn't just a name, it's a vibe. It's where science and storytelling play tug-of-war, each convinced the other is being a little overdramatic. And tonight, we're going to wander through the calm waters of both. You drift lower now, descending into the history of this place, like slipping into lukewarm bathwater. A little murky, a little salty, but entirely non-threatening. For now. It all started with maps, old ones, faded, speculative lines drawn with questionable confidence. Cartographers back then had a tendency to panic slightly when faced with large blank spaces on the ocean, so they wrote things like, "Here be dragons," or "Do not venture," or in one case, simply, "No." And in between those nervous squiggles, the area we now call the Bermuda Triangle quietly formed, still decades away from becoming the world's most casually infamous disappearance act. Back in the 15th century, even Christopher Columbus couldn't help but get spooked by this patch of water. He wrote in his log about strange lights in the sky and a compass that didn't behave itself, which, to be fair, describes most of our modern electronics on a Monday morning. Still, he pressed on, which says a lot about how determined or just bored Columbus must have been. Imagine seeing glowing lights and broken navigation and thinking, well, let's see where this goes. And so, the legend of the triangle began to squirm to life, not with a bang, but with a few confused journal entries and some overly suspicious seagulls.
The triangle's reputation didn't explode until the 20th century, though. That's when the real party started. If your idea of a party includes vanishing pilots, confused radar operators, and journalists with deadlines to meet. But before we dive into all of that, you notice something strange. The water beneath you starts to shimmer. Not dramatically, just the way sunlight pretends to be special. A soft hum plays beneath your feet, and your ears pop ever so slightly. Something is stirring. Don't worry, it's just the story continuing. You land gently on a naval airstrip in Florida. It's the year 1945. The war is over, but the military machine is still humming like a refrigerator someone forgot to unplug. Men in crisp uniforms walk briskly, but with just enough slouch to suggest they're very tired of doing things the proper way. There, waiting by a line of planes, is a squadron of 5 Avenger torpedo bombers, Flight 19, soon to become the Bermuda Triangle's most famous group of guests who never checked out. You walk past the crew. They're smoking, joking. One of them is drawing something questionable on the side of the plane. Nobody looks nervous. It's just a routine training flight over the Atlantic, out 120 miles, a turn north, and back. Like running an aerial triangle over the water. Simple geometry. Nothing spooky about shapes, right? They take off into a sky so cloudless it almost seems smug. Radios crackle, coordinates are shared. Everything is fine until it isn't. Because somewhere along that well-planned triangle, things start to unravel. One of the pilots reports that his compass is spinning like a DJ with no sense of rhythm. He doesn't know where west is anymore, and neither does his backup. The ocean below them is unfamiliar, even though they've flown these routes dozens of times. You can't see land, the lead pilot says. We seem to be off course. His voice isn't panicked. It's tired, confused. The kind of voice you use when you realize your GPS took you to a completely different part of town, but you're too far in to admit defeat. The control tower scrambles to help. Turn west, they say. But the pilots, unsure of which way west even is anymore, circle, talk, guess. Fuel burns. Hours pass. Eventually, radio contact fades. The final message is eerie in its ordinariness. No screams, no warnings, just a quiet, everything looks wrong. And just like that, Flight 19 disappears. No wreckage, no Mayday call. Just 5 bombers, 11 men, and one new chapter in the growing novel of Bermuda Triangle lore. You turn, and behind you stands a reporter. It's 1950 now. He's typing furiously in a newsroom with weak coffee and strong opinions. He coins the phrase, the Devil's Triangle, not because the place has horns and a pitchfork, but because it sells newspapers better than somewhat odd patch of ocean. And just like that, the myth swells. More stories emerge. A cargo ship vanishes. A private plane ghosts out of existence. A yacht drifts ashore with dinner still warm on the table. The details blur, but the headline is always the same. Another Bermuda mystery. You walk through a library next. Dusty books, pages that smell like time itself. Rows upon rows of theories, some held together by data, others by sheer narrative desperation. There's the magnetic anomaly theory, the idea that Earth's magnetic field throws a tantrum here and makes compasses cry.
Then the methane gas idea. Bubbles from the seafloor rise, lower water density, and ships sink like forgotten toasters. Or perhaps it's time portals, alien abductions, government experiments, all neatly packaged and just vague enough to be interesting. You pause at a chalkboard in the back. Someone's scribbled, "What if it's just weather and human error?" You smile. How boring, how beautifully plausible. Because the truth, like a perfectly lukewarm cup of tea, is rarely satisfying to the thrill seekers, but it tends to hold up under inspection. Still, there's something cozy about unsolved things, about mysteries that stay just open enough for you to wiggle a story into. The Bermuda Triangle isn't scary because it's dangerous. It's scary because it's unfinished. Because even now, no one can hand you a perfect, satisfying box with a bow labeled "Solved." You lean back, resting on the wing of a long abandoned plane. The clouds overhead start to yawn. Somewhere far below, a compass needle spins, not because it's cursed, but because it's old, tired, and maybe just a little miscalibrated.
And so the mystery continues, with you in it, floating quietly through time, the water waiting, the sky listening, and the triangle, of course, still right there, pretending it's not enjoying the attention. The air is thick with salt, and the horizon seems to sag under the weight of its own secrets. You're still hovering somewhere off the coast of Florida, a gentle breeze pressing against your cheek like a sleepy sigh. The year is 1945, still, but the timeline has stretched itself out like taffy, thick and slow. You remain suspended inside the mystery of Flight 19, the story refusing to let go just yet. You look around. The ocean is calm. Not eerie, not dramatic, just ocean, which is probably the most frustrating part. You half expect angry whirlpools and dramatic lightning bolts shaped like question marks. But no, just waves doing their wave thing, gently brushing against each other like they're bored at a party. And yet, that calm hides something. Not just wreckage, though that too, but something else, something more human. See, the disappearance of Flight 19 didn't just baffle investigators, it kind of broke their brains for a while. A full naval rescue operation was launched within hours. Planes were scrambled, boats raced to the last known coordinates. And then something else happened. A Martin Mariner flying boat, massive, crew of 13, gone. Just like that. 1 minute it's searching the ocean for 5 lost planes, and the next it's a footnote in the same growing legend. Some reports suggest there was an onboard explosion, a big, smoky boom seen from a passing tanker. But again, no solid wreckage, no survivors, just theories, hunches, a puff of dark smoke, and silence. It's almost cartoonish at this point. You can't help but imagine the ocean tilting its head, feigning innocence. Me? Swallow up an entire rescue plane? I would never. And yet. Back on land, the reports come in. Papers print maps with big red triangles drawn over them, as if geometry could offer comfort. The public, hungry for post-war tension and weirdness, eats it all up. It becomes dinner table conversation, cocktail party trivia, whispered airport lore. The Bermuda Triangle isn't just a headline anymore. It's an atmosphere, a mood.
You step softly into the home of a Navy widow. She's sitting at her kitchen table, coffee gone cold in her hands. The clock ticks too loudly. She keeps replaying the last letter he sent. "Just training," he wrote. "Back soon." She reads that sentence over and over like it might change if she blinks hard enough. In the corner, the radio hums. A newsman's voice spills out, measured, grave, and wearing just the tiniest tinge of sensationalism. The area in question appears to have consumed yet another aircraft. That's 6 planes in a single day. The Navy has no official explanation. The woman doesn't flinch, just breathes, watches the light curve through her curtains. She doesn't need an official explanation. She just wants one that feels like something solid, something that will let her grieve with a direction. Outside her window, the world goes on. You drift back upward now, higher and wider, zooming out from the ache of one kitchen to the enormity of the sea. The Bermuda Triangle stretches beneath you like a misplaced jigsaw piece. Not sinister, just uncooperative. By the 1960s, the legend gets another boost. A writer named Vincent Gaddis coins the name Bermuda Triangle officially in a magazine article. He gathers all the disappearances, Flight 19, the Mariner, various cargo ships, fishing boats, pleasure yachts, and organizes them into a neat little package of dread. It's part science, part storytelling, and part, let's give the public something to lose sleep over.
The Triangle becomes a bestseller before it even knows it's a brand. It starts showing up in documentaries, pulp fiction novels, late-night radio shows. It's the perfect mystery. No villains, no bodies, just endless water and silence. And in the silence, your mind starts to wander. You remember that day you couldn't find your car keys, even though you swear you left them on the counter. You checked your bag, your coat, under the sofa, nothing. And then hours later, there they are, on the counter, exactly where you left them. You blame stress, sleep deprivation, maybe even the cat. But somewhere in the back of your mind, you wonder, did reality blink? That's what the Bermuda Triangle feels like, a place where reality forgets to follow its own rules for a second, where things go missing not because of danger, but because of absent-mindedness, like the universe just put something down and forgot where. As you drift further, the water darkens. The clouds above thicken just slightly, like a warm blanket being pulled over your ears. You pass a floating message in a bottle. The paper inside reads, "Sorry, we took a wrong turn." You smile. The bottle spins in lazy circles, going nowhere in particular. Now you're floating above a yacht from the 1950s. It's pristine, no damage, no signs of distress, but it's empty. Dinner plates still sit on the table, wine half poured, shoes lined up neatly near the stairs. No people, no blood, not even a note, just absence. Investigators found it drifting hundreds of miles off course. Everything was intact, but the crew had vanished like mist. No storm, no pirates, no obvious foul play. It's the kind of story that makes you check behind the shower curtain before bed, not because you expect to find something, but because you can't shake the feeling that something might be missing. You float down into the yacht's cabin. There's a book open on the nightstand. Hemingway, The Old Man and the Sea. Appropriate you think. The pages ruffle gently, as if being read by the wind.
You sit. The silence here is thick, but not cruel. It's the kind of silence that stretches like a yawn. Nothing reaches out to grab you, nothing lunges from the shadows. It's just quiet. And the ocean keeps moving, because that's the thing about the Bermuda Triangle. It's not loud, it doesn't roar, it doesn't advertise, it just waits. And sometimes things don't come back. You wake, gently. Not from sleep exactly, but from the kind of story-induced haze that happens when reality loosens its grip just a little. You're standing now on a shore. The sand is warm. The water rolls in and out like it's sighing in its sleep. You pick up a seashell, hold it to your ear. Instead of hearing the ocean, you hear a confused radio transmission. We think we're over the Keys now, but nothing looks familiar. The ocean looks different. It fades. You place the shell back down. We're in the 1970s now, a decade fully committed to bell-bottoms, fondue, and mysteries that come with dramatic music. The Bermuda Triangle reaches the height of its fame here, no longer just a maritime oddity, but a full-blown cultural phenomenon. You wander through a living room. Brown shag carpet, wood-paneled walls. A large, boxy television set hums quietly in the corner. On the screen, a man with an impressive mustache explains with utter seriousness that the triangle might be a gateway to another dimension. A child sits cross-legged in front of the screen, wide-eyed, holding a bowl of cereal gone soggy from neglect. She doesn't understand the science, but she loves the idea. A hole in the sky, a crack in the ocean, a place where you can vanish and be somewhere else, somewhere secret. And isn't that the appeal?
You wander past her and into a bookstore. The shelves are bursting with paperback theories. Titles like Into the Bermuda Triangle, Deadly Triangle, and Lost in the Triangle compete for attention. The covers all feature sinking ships, swirling whirlpools, and lightning bolts shaped like existential dread. It's the golden era of pseudoscience, and the Bermuda Triangle is its poster child. You pick up a book, flip through its pages. One chapter claims there's a crystal pyramid beneath the ocean floor emitting electromagnetic energy. Another suggests ancient aliens used this area as a cosmic charging station. One paragraph proposes that time itself folds here, like laundry done badly. There are no footnotes, just bold claims and grainy photos that appear to prove absolutely nothing. But oh, it's fun. You wander next into a research lab. Cold, fluorescent light, scientists hunched over weather charts and magnetic field models. They look tired, not because they don't love their work, but because every time they publish something logical like this area just has a lot of weird currents and unpredictable storms, someone replies with a conspiracy theory involving Atlantis and mind control. They've grown used to it. Shrug, move on, plot the next pressure front. You sit beside one of them. She's studying satellite data. There's nothing spooky, just a small area where ocean temperatures rise faster than expected. She notes it down. Nothing disappears. Just a detail added to the vast, boring puzzle. Nothing supernatural, she murmurs. Just climate and math. You nod. Then she pauses, looks at the screen again. But it is weird how consistent it is. You leave her there, half rational, half intrigued, and move along. You're flying now, coasting gently over the surface. Below you see more shipwrecks. Most are explainable. A sudden storm, human error, mechanical failure. But some still resist tidy endings. There's a freighter, half sunk, caught on a coral reef. Its logs show no distress signal. Its crew's last entry reads, "Still on course, weather fair," then silence. You look closer. The ship's name, Consolation. A little on the nose, maybe.
You drift through its hollow decks. Rust blooms on the walls like forgotten memories. The ship groans in its sleep, waves rocking it with the gentleness of a parent too tired to argue. At the stern, a faded photograph flutters in a broken frame. A group of sailors, smiling. One has drawn devil horns on another's head. They all look young, like people who didn't expect to be famous for vanishing. You hover above them for a moment, then move on. Because that's the thing about stories, especially the mysterious ones. They don't stay still. They don't wrap up neatly. They ripple outward like stones skipped over dark water. Every mystery begets another. Every answer breeds 3 new questions. And the Bermuda Triangle? It doesn't mind. It's not here to be solved. It's here to be wondered about, argued over, whispered about at 2 a.m. when the wind hits your window just a little too hard. You rise higher into the clouds. The sun dips below the horizon, throwing long shadows across the water. The triangle fades slightly beneath a curtain of dusk. And you, still gliding, feel your breath slow again. The sea hums, the sky sighs, and somewhere far below, another compass gives up trying. You wake, or rather, you continue drifting in a space that doesn't quite belong to time. The stars above you hang like punctuation marks in a sky that's forgotten how to end a sentence. Below, the water glows just faintly, like a nightlight humming in a child's room. You're not lost, you're just in between things. Welcome to the late 19th century. The Bermuda Triangle, now a household name, is going through a bit of an identity crisis. Everyone knows about it. Everyone has an opinion. The ocean, however, remains unmoved. It continues to swirl in lazy eddies, unbothered by documentaries or book deals. You touch down gently on a cruise ship mid-voyage, somewhere between Miami and, well, wherever cruise ships pretend they're going. The buffet is still open. A couple in matching polos is arguing over bingo cards. There's a steel band playing covers of 80s hits with the confident mediocrity that only all-inclusive entertainment can provide.
But somewhere beneath all the sunscreen and soft serve, there's tension. Not dramatic tension, just that low-grade hum of "we've all heard the stories." Someone makes a Bermuda Triangle joke at the bar. Nervous laughter. A glance toward the horizon, where the clouds seem just a little too sculpted. The captain, of course, says nothing. He's been sailing these waters for years. He doesn't believe in curses or vortexes, but he also won't say the words Bermuda Triangle out loud while steering. Superstition, after all, is just tradition with salt water in its lungs. You walk the deck as night falls. The ship's lights stretch across the water like thin ribbons. You hear a creak, not from danger, just from old wood remembering its age. A steward passes you. He's humming something familiar. Maybe "Come Sail Away," maybe something older. And then, without warning, the ship is gone. Not literally, don't worry, you're still aboard. But the scene melts away like fog and morning sun, and you're standing now in a Coast Guard archive room in Key West. File cabinets line the walls like patient old men. Dust hovers in the air
undecided on where to settle. You pull open a drawer. Reports spill out, notebooks, photographs, scribbled notes from crewmen who saw something but can't explain it. One describes a ship that appeared on radar but not on water. Another tells of a plane that seemed to echo itself. 2 signals, 1 aircraft. There's even a sketch of an ocean hole, not a whirlpool, just a place where the waves stopped moving. It would be easy to scoff, easy to say, well, clearly they were tired, mistaken, overworked. But you remember the kitchen from earlier, the woman with the letter, the silence that followed. Some stories are told not because they're proven, but because they linger. You move to a desk. A young Coast Guard officer sits there, elbows deep in reports. He's methodical, focused. He marks weather patterns, cross-references maintenance logs, highlights typos. He's not chasing ghosts. He's trying to put structure to chaos. But then he leans back, rubs his eyes, and mutters something you weren't meant to hear. Still doesn't make sense. It's not a conspiracy. It's not aliens. It's just that sometimes even the best data refuses to add up.
You float upward again, drifting back into open water. The sky is darker now, but not ominous, just vast, patient. Below, a sailboat meanders along, crewed by a single man in his 60s. He's retired. He's got a beard that would make a sea captain jealous and a notebook full of coordinates he's memorized by heart. He doesn't believe in the Bermuda Triangle, but he respects it. Always check your gear, he mutters, adjusting his sails, not because of ghosts, because the sea doesn't care about your confidence. You float beside him for a while. He tells you stories, not spooky ones, just honest ones. The time he got caught in a squall because his barometer was off. The time he mistook a drifting shipping container for a whale. The time he saw a flash of light underwater and assumed it was his own emergency flare rolling in the bilge. He chuckles at that one. I think the ocean just likes to mess with us a little, he says. Keeps us humble. You nod. Then, far in the distance, a radio crackles. Unidentified object at 2 o'clock. It's not on radar. The old sailor sighs. Again with this. You smile. Because now you understand, the Bermuda Triangle isn't just a mystery. It's a conversation, one that bounces between science and superstition, between ocean currents and human fear. It's the story of people trying to explain what happens when things stop making sense, even briefly. And sometimes that's enough to keep you listening. The water swirls beneath you. The stars blink overhead. And somewhere out there, a very tired lighthouse continues to blink. You're under the surface now. No panic, no pressure. Just a calm, steady descent into a part of the world where light doesn't quite follow. The water here is thick with time. It moves slowly, reluctantly, like it's trying to forget something. Around you, shipwrecks loom like sunken cathedrals. Coral crawls over metal bones. Fish dart through broken windows like gossiping ghosts. You pause beside a massive hull, rusted, hollow. Its nameplate is barely readable now, but you catch part of it. A-R-A-B-E-L. Once a sleek cargo vessel, now a home for crabs and rumors.
This is where stories go when they retire. And in the Bermuda Triangle, there are many. Let's talk about the theories, the big ones, the ones that refuse to die. First, magnetic anomalies. Supposedly, compasses go haywire here. North shifts, instruments twitch, pilots swear the needle spins like it's had too much rum. The idea is that Earth's magnetic field does something strange in this region, something that makes even the most advanced navigation tech cry softly into its circuits. But when scientists look at magnetic data, they find nothing especially odd. There are shifts, sure, but similar ones exist all over the globe. Canada, for instance, has far more aggressive magnetic variation. Nobody's accusing Toronto of harboring a gateway to another realm. Still, the theory sticks. Because when a compass fails, it feels personal. Next up, methane hydrates. Deep under the ocean floor, methane gas is trapped in icy pockets. If one of these pockets erupts, it could, hypothetically, reduce the water's density, causing ships to lose buoyancy and sink almost instantly. It's not as dramatic as alien abduction, but it's scientifically feasible. Some researchers have even recreated the phenomenon in labs.
But again, the evidence in the triangle? Sparse. There are no confirmed cases of ships vanishing due to methane burps. It's the underwater equivalent of blaming a missing sock on a hiccup. Still, you imagine it. A sudden, silent bubble rising, a ship's hull trembling, then nothing. You move on. Theory 3. Rogue waves. These are massive spontaneous ocean waves, up to 100 feet high, that appear without warning. They've been documented, they're real, and they're terrifying. If a ship were caught off guard by one of these, especially a smaller vessel, it could be capsized in seconds. No time for distress calls, no time for explanations. And the Bermuda Triangle, sitting between several major current systems, is a likely candidate for such ocean tantrums. But again, not all disappearances match this pattern. Some ships are found intact, others leave behind no trace at all. Rogue waves might explain a few cases, but not all. Then there's the more creative catalog. Atlantis. Yes, the mythical sunken city. Some claim it lies beneath the triangle, its advanced technology interfering with navigation systems. Others suggest the Atlanteans themselves are still down there, beaming up curious aircraft for study. You smile, not because you believe it, but because part of you wants to. Another theory: wormholes.
Space-time rips, tears in the fabric of reality, places where you can step or sail into one world and out of another. A theoretical physicist might furrow their brow at the phrasing, but again, it's not about proof. It's about the deliciousness of maybe. You float past a billboard on the seafloor. It's imaginary, of course, but it reads, "Welcome to the intersection of science and shrug." You nod politely. Finally, we have the nothing special theory. This one's simple. The Bermuda Triangle, for all its hype, is one of the busiest shipping and flight corridors in the world. More traffic means more accidents. More accidents mean more stories. Factor in unpredictable weather, human error, and the occasional malfunction, and, well, you get what we've got. No mystery, just math. But try telling that to the sailor whose radar blinked for half a second, or the pilot whose instruments briefly disagreed about what was up and what was west. In those moments, reason takes a back seat. And that's okay, because we don't tell these stories because we need answers. We tell them because the silence between facts is roomy. It lets us wonder, drift, imagine. You swim now through a narrow canyon. A broken compass lies at the bottom, its needle spinning lazily. Nearby, a faded journal rests in a glass case. The writing is smeared, but a few words remain. We are off course. Everything is quiet. Too quiet. You close the journal and slowly rise. As you breach the surface, the moon hangs above like a watchful eye. The ocean is still. The air is cool. And you realize something. The Bermuda Triangle isn't a place. It's a feeling. It's what happens when the world stops behaving the way you expect it to, when logic hiccups, when your inner compass, physical or emotional, loses its way. And in that space, in that glitch, you find story. You float there for a while, listening to the sea, to yourself, to everything that was lost, and everything still waiting to be found. The night hasn't ended, it simply deepened. The stars above you are quieter now, resting more than shining, like they've grown bored of being dramatic. You're still out here, floating above a sea that doesn't ripple unless it absolutely has to. The air is cool, but not cold. Time is slurring its speech again. You aren't sure if minutes or hours have passed since you surfaced from the deep. But you're not in a rush. The Bermuda Triangle doesn't believe in rushing. It prefers the slow unraveling of things, the gradual detachment of reason from narrative. You don't get a climax here. No plot twist wrapped in music. You get driftwood. You get echoes. And right now, you're following one. A thin, almost imperceptible vibration curls under your feet, like someone humming through the ocean floor. You follow it, slowly, casually, like a cat pretending it doesn't care. The vibration leads you east, toward the curve of the Bahamas, where the sea starts to blush into turquoise shallows. And then, there it is. Bimini Road. A line of giant rectangular stone blocks submerged beneath the water, laid out in a near-perfect pattern. Too neat, too organized for nature's usual clumsiness. Divers discovered it in the 1960s, and ever since, it's been a favorite footnote in triangle lore. You hover above it now. Stones worn smooth by centuries of tides. Some lie flush, others slightly tilted, like they've tried to sit up in their sleep. Archaeologists with waterproof notebooks, treasure hunters with maps bought in strange bookstores, locals with stories passed down from grandmothers who swore the sea moved different that day. You drift lower, brushing your fingers over the stone. It doesn't feel magical.
It feels like stone. But you're not here for proof. You're here for presence. And the presence is strong. Bimini Road is important not because of what it is, but because of what it might be. It reminds people that mysteries can have weight, that wonder can sit underwater for hundreds of years and still stir the air above it. You swim slowly along the path. Nothing stops you, nothing drags you under, but the deeper you go, the quieter the ocean gets. Not ominous, just respectful. Like the sea knows you're listening and doesn't want to interrupt. A school of fish passes by, uninterested in your human curiosity. They've seen thousands of divers, millions of bubbles, and a surprising number of lost GoPros. You wave, they don't wave back. As the stones fade behind you, you rise again, breaking the surface near an empty beach. And that's where you see it. A lighthouse. It stands crooked, almost embarrassed to still be trying. Paint peeling, light flickering, but stubborn in that way only old buildings can be. You walk up to it, feet crunching on coral and half-forgotten sea glass. Inside, a logbook. 1 entry per day. Sometimes 2. The keeper hasn't been seen in years, but the entries keep appearing. The handwriting changes, sometimes neat, sometimes frantic, but the tone is always the same.
Date: April 14. Weather: clear. Saw a ship today. Or maybe it saw me. Hard to say. Made tea. Overboiled. Again. Another entry. Date: May 7. Heard voices on the wind. Or birds. Either way, no answers. Fixed the roof. Again. Why? And another. Date: June 2. Triangle still here. So am I. You smile, because there's something oddly comforting about that. The triangle, for all its drama, hasn't left. It doesn't chase, it doesn't hunt. It just exists, and so do the people who continue to meet it, head-on or accidentally. You climb the lighthouse steps. Each footfall is soft, like you're walking on memory. At the top, the view stretches endlessly, a 360-degree panorama of maybe, a full horizon of probably not, but let's pretend. And in the far distance, a shape, faint, flickering, like a ship half materialized or a memory trying to be born. You lean against the railing. The wind wraps around you gently, like it's tucking you in. You don't chase the shape. You don't need to. It'll still be there tomorrow. And maybe tomorrow, it'll be real.
You fall into morning like a coin dropping into water, slowly, with a soft splash and no urgency to resurface. The sun has risen, but it doesn't shout. It just glows gently, stretching fingers across the ocean, warming the skin of the waves without boiling the truth beneath them. You're drifting again, not just through space, but through memory. And today you're headed into the records, not the official ones, the ones made of carbon copies and rubber stamps, but the kind that live in dusty attics and boat logs tucked into old tackle boxes. Because for every Navy file and every Coast Guard statement, there are 10 stories passed quietly from mouth to mouth over campfires and bar stools and slow, salty dinners. Tonight we step into those. You find yourself on the deck of a sailboat from the 1980s. The name stenciled on the side is Second Guess. An old man and his grandson are fishing. They haven't caught much, just seaweed and a sense of peace, but they're content. The boy asks his grandfather about the triangle. The old man doesn't sigh. He smiles. "Oh, that thing," he says. "I saw it once." The boy leans in. The man taps his temple. "Right up here. Best view in the world." You sit with them. The lines trail in the water. Nothing bites. He tells a story about a fog that came too fast, about a compass that spun for no reason, about the strange moment when their radio stopped working and the sea felt thinner somehow, like the boat was sailing on the edge of something not quite invented. "But nothing bad happened," he says. The boy frowns. "Then why's it scary?" The old man shrugs. "It's not. It's just uncertain." And there it is.
The Bermuda Triangle isn't a monster. It's a mirror. It reflects back everything we fear losing: control, clarity, consistency. It's not hungry. It's just ambiguous. And people? We don't love ambiguity. You wander into a marina now, somewhere in South Florida. Boats bob lazily, ropes creaking against weathered posts. A woman is tying knots with the kind of precision only retirement can afford. She tells you her husband disappeared in the triangle. Small plane, daylight, clear skies. "It wasn't spooky," she says. "It was boring. He left. He didn't come back." She touches the ring on her finger. "I don't need a theory. I just need him to walk through the door, late, apologizing." She knows he won't. But she tells the story anyway. Not because she believes in electromagnetic portals or undersea civilizations, but because stories are the only way we mark the edges of what we've lost. You walk past her, down the dock, where a young couple is preparing to sail. They're excited, nervous. She has a map, he has sunscreen. Neither has a plan. They joke about the triangle, call it Triangle Land. Wonder aloud if they should leave a note. You don't stop them. You just watch as the sail unfurls and the boat tilts forward, riding the breath of the wind.
They're not afraid. Because for them, like for many, the Bermuda Triangle has become more idea than danger. A campfire tale, a nautical shrug, and yet a piece of you still watches the horizon, just in case. You climb into a small seaplane now. The pilot is calm, casual, borderline unimpressed. He's flown this route 50 times. Says the triangle is just marketing. You fly low over the water, spot dolphins, spot debris, spot nothing unusual. But then the engine hiccups. Not fails, just hiccups. For half a second, the pilot's eyes flick toward the gauge. You both feel it, that electric pause,
that brief flirtation with what if. Then the engine evens out. The moment passes. You don't speak of it. You land safely. But you know. Sometimes that's all it takes. A blip, a flicker, a breath out of place. The triangle doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just reminds you it's still there. Waiting. Quiet. Unbothered. Indifferent. And somehow always listening. You drift, as you often do now, into the mid-air space between memory and speculation, just above the water but below certainty. The sky is wide open again, clouds hanging like thick cotton thoughts that forgot what they were trying to say. This time, you're flying commercial, a quiet aisle seat in a Boeing 737, somewhere over the Atlantic. The seatbelt sign has been off for a while, though no one's moving. Everyone's nestled into their routines, earbuds in, e-books open, a toddler babbling nonsense about clouds shaped like dogs. You peer out the window, just water. Below you, the triangle. Though nobody says it, not even the pilot, he's cheerful, confident, but he skips the phrase entirely, as if the airspace has developed feelings and prefers not to be called out. Currently cruising at 33,000 feet above the western Atlantic, he says instead. A verbal sidestep, like describing Voldemort as that noseless fellow with confidence issues. You chuckle softly, but only to yourself. Because what no one ever mentions is that most flights through the Bermuda Triangle are, well, fine. Statistically, it's safer than most highways. Pilots have flown these routes thousands of times. Ships cross through daily. But the myth persists. It's become part of the cultural background noise, like the idea that gum stays in your stomach for 7 years, or that cats always land on their feet. They don't. Gravity is democratic like that. The woman beside you is reading an article on her phone. You sneak a glance. The headline, 10 places you should never visit. Number 4 will terrify you. A photo of stormy seas and the red, ever-present triangle. She sighs and scrolls past it, already bored. Down below, the ocean sighs, too.
You're over the deepest part now. The Puerto Rico Trench, almost 5 miles down. Darker than anything you've seen. Pressure so intense it could crush a ship like a soda can. Creatures down there don't use eyes. They use light and instinct and patience. It's quiet where they live, peaceful. And yet, stories still rise up from the deep. In the 1970s, a small cargo ship disappeared near here, the SS El Faro. It sent a few distress signals, mentioned engine trouble and rough seas. Then, nothing. The wreckage was eventually found, nearly 15,000 feet below the surface, along with black box recordings capturing the crew's calm, measured panic. They weren't swallowed by a portal. They weren't snatched by time. They faced a storm, a mechanical failure, and a brutal truth. The ocean doesn't play favorites. Still, the triangle got the credit, and it always will. Because when something sinks in these waters, the explanation feels too heavy, too final. So we wrap it in mystery instead. Tuck it gently under the folklore blanket. You glance around the cabin again. A child is asleep against the window, drooling onto their armrest. A businessman is typing half-heartedly into a spreadsheet, his screen glowing with resignation. An older couple shares a bag of trail mix in near silence. You wonder if any of them know where they are, if they care, if they'd feel different knowing the ghost stories that hover just under their feet. Probably not. The plane banks gently, the wings tilt, catching the sunlight at just the right angle to momentarily blind your thoughts. And then suddenly, you're not on the plane anymore. You're in a jungle. Tropical. Overgrown. Alive. And in the middle of a clearing, the remains of a plane. Not a big one, just a two-seater. Rusted, twisted, forgotten. The canopy is shattered. Vines crawl through the cockpit, as if trying to learn how to fly. You step closer. There's no plaque, no markers, no explanation. Just metal and silence. Nearby, a faded journal lies, half buried in the dirt. You open it. Page 1. Coordinates. Page 2. A sketch of something strange. Not a map, not a compass, just circles, interlocking, spiraling. Page 3. One line. I saw the horizon blink. You close the book. Sit down in the grass. Because sometimes that's all you can do. Not solve, not conquer, just sit. And listen to the strange hum of a world that sometimes forgets to make sense. The jungle fades slowly, like a dream that was never quite yours to begin with. The vines let go of your ankles without protest. The air turns less green, more blue, and the world around you begins to ripple like a sheet being smoothed by careful hands. You're back at sea level now, but it's not the sea you expect.
It's calm, glassy, and still, the kind of ocean surface that makes you feel like you're staring at a mirror held by someone too patient to blink. You're on a small wooden raft, just large enough to sit cross-legged. Around you, silence. Above you, endless sky. Below, a depth too complicated for metaphors. This is the middle of everything. No land in sight, no boats, no noise, just you and the gentle creak of wood. You're not afraid, because fear requires a spark, a threat, and this place isn't threatening. It's just waiting. The raft drifts, and in time you see it, a line of buoys stretching across the water, faint, weather-beaten, half-sinking, each one marked with a date and a name. Clarabelle, 1937. Flight 441, 1954. Gloria Dawn, 1970. You read them as you float by, softly, like reading names on gravestones that were never meant to be buried. This is the unofficial Bermuda Triangle Memorial, not built by governments or grieving relatives, built by the water, or time. Or maybe just the collective imagination of everyone who ever asked, "What happened?" You pass one last buoy. It simply reads, "You." You raise an eyebrow, half amused. Touché, triangle. Touché.
A fog begins to roll in. Slowly, like it's shy. It doesn't block your vision so much as soften it. Turns everything watercolor. You see shapes in the mist, the outlines of ships, silhouettes of planes, suggestions of stories that never quite finished themselves. And voices, faint,
Not ghostly, just tired. One says, "We followed the heading." Another, "There was a light, not lightning, something still." Another, "I wasn't afraid, just off." The mist thickens, but not to scare you. It just wants you to feel what uncertainty feels like when it stretches its legs. You lie back on the raft. Let your hand trail in the water. It's warm. And there, floating beside your fingers, is a single playing card, waterlogged but legible. The Queen of Hearts. You let it drift. You've learned by now not to chase every symbol. Instead, you close your eyes and you drift into the quieter mysteries, the ones that don't make headlines, the ones that don't require disappearing vehicles or compass malfunctions, the mystery of why we need explanations at all, why we struggle with loose ends.
Why stories must be wrapped up like gifts, even when the ribbon doesn't fit. The Bermuda Triangle isn't just a place things vanish. It's a place we send our discomfort with unresolved endings. It's where we bury the things we can't explain, lost not because they disappeared, but because they never quite made sense. You breathe out, long, even. Somewhere nearby, a bell tolls. Once, then again, then silence. A ship passes in the distance, silent, unlit, barely real. You don't wave. You don't need to. Because here, in the middle of everything, you finally stopped looking for the answer. Not out of defeat, but because the question is enough. And that, too, is a kind of peace. It's later now, not night, not quite morning, just that quiet middle part where the sky forgets what color it's supposed to be. Soft gray, blue-gray, maybe a shade called uncertainty, if you ask a poetic paint store. You're still afloat, still breathing in the hush of this oversized question mark of a sea. The mist is lifting gently, peeled back by a breeze so soft you're not sure it's real. You sit up on your raft, and the water around you mirrors your movement, like it's been waiting for you to wake up. No sound, no sign of life, just presence. And then, from nowhere, you hear it, a slow rhythmic tap. Tap, tap, tap. You scan the horizon. There, emerging from the mist, is a ship. Old, older than it should be. Wooden, with masts that creak, even without wind. Its sails hang limp, patched with mismatched cloth, as though time has been more generous to the fabric than the story. The name carved into the side is faint, but readable. The Everbend. Of course it is. You don't hail it. You don't need to. The ship drifts closer, uninvited, but not impolite, as if it's just passing through your dream and didn't want to be rude. You step aboard. The deck is covered in sand, not just sea salt, actual sand, like a piece of the desert got lost at sea. Tiny footprints move across it, though no one else is visible. The helm turns itself, gently, like it's remembering a course it once followed faithfully. Below deck, you find logs, journals stacked in crooked piles, some dated 1913, others newer than yesterday. Different hands, different languages, same recurring phrase.
We turned left, and time folded. You run your fingers across the ink. It smudges, as if freshly written. In one corner, someone has drawn a circle. Inside the circle, waves. Above it, stars. At the center, a single dot, unlabeled. You recognize the shape. It's not the Bermuda Triangle. It's you. You return to the deck. The ship is still drifting, still directionless. You look behind you and realize something. There's no wake. The water remains untouched, as if the ship is gliding across a painting instead of an ocean. And in the far distance, something flashes. A light, faint, steady, pulsing.
You squint. It's too far to make out. A lighthouse? A flare? An idea? Dressed up as a signal? You don't move toward it. You just watch. Because out here, rushing ruins everything. Eventually, the light fades, and you remember something. Not all disappearances are dramatic. Some are quiet, subtle. You lose track of time. You misplace a moment. A thought slips through your fingers like sand, and suddenly, you're standing on a ship you don't remember boarding, holding a journal you don't remember writing. But somehow, it's yours. You lie down on the deck. The wood is warm. It creaks beneath you like a tired storyteller. Above you, the sky begins to clear. The stars look closer now, not because the earth moved, but because your perception did. And in one corner of the sky, a triangle, formed by 3 stars you've never noticed before. You close your eyes. The ship keeps sailing. Without sails, without sound, without explanation. And in that silence, you finally feel full.
You wake, not because of a noise, but because of the absence of one. Even silence has texture out here. Thickness, a hum. But now, there's nothing. The sound has gone missing. And the ocean? Still. So still. It's almost alarming how calm everything is. No breeze, no birds. Even the clouds look stunned, like they've wandered into the wrong sky and don't know how to leave. You're not on the Everbend anymore. You're in a rowboat now. Alone, as always, but not lonely. The oars lie beside you, untouched. The boat drifts, as if moved by story rather than current. You've begun to accept that things shift in this space. Locations, vehicles, perspectives. One minute you're in a jungle, the next a lighthouse, then a passenger jet or a wooden raft or someone else's memory. The Bermuda Triangle, as it turns out, is less of a place and more of a literary device with commitment issues. You smile. Ahead, you see a coastline. Not a dramatic one. No cliffs or crashing surf, just a low-lying shore. Palm trees bent like they've heard every version of the myth and are too tired to argue anymore. You step out of the boat and onto the sand. It's warm, not hot, just exactly the right temperature for bare feet and quiet thoughts. There's a single building here, a shack really. Roof made of tin, walls decorated with washed-up buoys, license plates,
and a hand-painted sign that reads, "Triangle Lost and Found."
Of course. You push the door open. A bell rings, unnecessarily enthusiastic. Inside, it's a museum, or a thrift store, or maybe both. Rows of shelves hold oddities, items returned without explanation. A pilot's logbook with only one entry, left Miami, then 3 question marks. A child's stuffed whale, embroidered with a name, Milo. An unopened envelope addressed to a person who was never born. A compass frozen at 67 degrees, and a dusty videotape labeled, "To whom it may concern." You run your fingers along the shelves. Everything here has been unlost in a way, pulled from the depths and laid out gently, waiting for someone to recognize it. In the back, a counter. Behind it, an old man reading a novel. He doesn't look up, just says, "Take what you need." You don't speak. You nod, because that's all the triangle ever asks. Not to be solved, not to be proven, just to be acknowledged. You choose nothing and walk back outside. The sky is bluer now, a bit bolder, as if the mystery has taken a nap and woken up refreshed. You feel a shift, not in the air, in yourself, like the questions that once pressed against your chest are now just soft curiosities resting on your shoulders. You don't need to know why the triangle exists. You just need to know that it does, and that sometimes the most honest map is the one that admits it doesn't know everything. You return to the beach. The boat is gone, replaced by a path. You take it, not because it leads anywhere, but because it begins. You walk under palm trees and over sand, so fine it squeaks, and in the distance, you hear music. Not loud, not specific, just the kind of melody that reminds you of being safe in strange places. You follow it, and somewhere far behind you, the triangle exhales, satisfied. For now. You walk for what feels like days, and also like no time at all. The path beneath your feet shifts, first soft white sand, then crushed shells, then the kind of dark volcanic stone that clicks slightly with each step, like tiny bones telling tiny stories. Above you, the trees start to thin, not dramatically, just gradually, like a secret being carefully unwrapped. And then you arrive. At first, you're not sure what it is. A clearing, yes, but not empty. In the center, a dome. Transparent, perfectly smooth. No seams, no hinges. It hums faintly, like someone playing a cello from inside a dream. It doesn't ask you to approach, but it doesn't ask you not to either. So, you do. As you draw closer, you see what's inside. A simulation, a projection, a memory caught in mid-spin. Inside the dome, the triangle is reenacting itself. You see waves crashing over ships, not violently, but insistently. You see clouds curl like smoke over small plains. You see compasses twitch, radios sputter, and then nothing. Then again, and again. Not looped, just replayed. Different scenes, different years, always the same soft unraveling. This isn't surveillance. It's theater. The ocean performing its greatest ambiguities. A light show of not quite answers. You sit. There's a bench nearby, too, perfectly placed to be accidental. Made of driftwood and metal, like the past had a garage sale and got artistic. You watch the dome for a while. Time loses its grip again. After a while, or maybe before, you notice someone else sitting next to you. An older woman, long silver hair, worn linen clothes,
a calmness to her that suggests she hasn't tried to control the world in decades. She doesn't introduce herself. She doesn't need to. She just points toward the dome and says, "Do you think we've been looking at it wrong?" You glance at her. At what? She shrugs. The triangle, the disappearances, the noise. Maybe it's not about things vanishing. Maybe it's about them being misplaced on purpose. You tilt your head. By whom? Not who. What? She leans forward, pointing again.
That, she says, is not a graveyard. It's a sorting process. Some things return, some don't. Not based on value, based on timing. You nod slowly. It's the kind of theory that feels absurd until it doesn't. What are we sorting, you ask? She smiles faintly. Ourselves. You sit in silence together, watching. The dome shows a fishing boat, 1982. Weather clear, radio logs silent. It disappears without fanfare. A moment later, you see it again. Same boat, different crew, no memory of the time between. The woman stands. You'll know when it's time to stop watching, she says. That's when it'll stop asking questions. She walks away, slow but certain. You don't follow. You just keep watching the stories. And somewhere in the middle of a shipwreck reenactment, you realize you're not watching for clues anymore. You're watching for rhythm, for pattern, for the soft, strange beauty of repeated confusion. Because there's comfort in that. Not every mystery needs to be chased. Some are meant to be sat beside. You lie back on the bench. The dome continues its silent ballet. The sky shifts above you, just a shade deeper now, like it's learning something too. And for the first time in this long, drifting journey, you stop asking what the Bermuda Triangle is and begin wondering what it wants.
When you leave the dome, it doesn't disappear. It doesn't shimmer or fade or fold in on itself. It just stays behind, like a book left open on a table. You continue walking, though you're not sure why. Not looking for anything, just letting the path form beneath your steps, like it's figuring itself out, one decision at a time. The air grows cooler now, less tropical, more contemplative. The sound of waves returns, softly, as if they're asking permission to come back into the narrative. Eventually, you reach a shore. It's different from the others, wide, flat, full of driftwood and rusted fragments of something older than maps. Pieces of boats, pieces of lives. A single wing from an aircraft, lying like a seashell nobody knew how to throw away. You walk along it. Here's a weathered crate with Navy markings, half buried in sand. Here's a torn duffel bag with a tag that says, "Property of someone who was late." Here's a chair, bolted to nothing. You don't touch any of it. You just witness. Farther down the beach, you find a figure standing knee-deep in the surf. They're holding something. A bottle, maybe? A glass orb? Hard to tell at first. As you get closer, you see it's a snow globe. Inside, a perfect little model of the Bermuda Triangle. Tiny waves, tiny ships, a tiny plane circling forever. They shake it gently, then hand it to you. You take it, not because you know what to do with it, but because that seems like the point.
The figure doesn't speak, just smiles, nods, and walks away into the ocean until they're gone. You turn the snow globe over in your hands. It has weight, real weight. And inside, the snow doesn't fall. It rises, slowly, lazily, like it's not entirely sure what direction is up anymore. You carry it with you as you move on, off the beach, toward the hills now. Low, rolling, covered in long, golden grasses that shift like whispers when the wind moves through. At the top of the hill, you find a table. Yes, a table. Set for one. A teacup, a folded napkin, a handwritten note under a smooth gray stone. The note says, "Sit. You've earned it." So you do. The tea is still warm, somehow. You sip. It tastes like memory. The snow globe sits on the table beside you. And for the first time, you notice what's etched along the base. You are not lost. You smile, because maybe that's the real story here. Not about vanishing, not about mystery, but about what it means to float through the in-between and still come out whole. You look out over the hills, the ocean, the sky stitched together with soft seams of sleep, and you let yourself rest, because even legends need a nap sometimes. Even triangles get tired of being misinterpreted. You hear a gull cry in the distance, one, then none. Even the birds are using their indoor voices now. The wind brushes your cheek, and in your pocket you feel the weight of the snow globe. Still warm, still humming, still yours.
You don't remember standing up from the table, but you must have. Because now you're walking again. Slowly. Without agenda, the teacup left warm on the table like a bookmark in a chapter that's already read you. The wind carries you downhill through gold grass and drowsy air. Your limbs move like you're underwater, which you half suspect you might be. There's a slight pressure in your ears. The world is quieter again. Not empty, just less crowded by explanation. You still carry the snow globe, but you've stopped shaking it. You don't need to make it perform anymore. It's enough to hold it, to feel the subtle warmth pulsing from within like a gentle heartbeat from a place that doesn't technically have one. Ahead, you see a door. Just standing there. No frame, no walls, just a wooden door with a brass knob planted in the middle of an open field like it sprouted from the ground by accident and no one had the heart to remove it. You don't hesitate. You open it and step through.
Now you're underwater, but breathing is easy. There's no resistance, no urgency, just soft blues and greens fading into velvet darkness. Around you, objects float slowly, disconnected from time or gravity. A pearl-handled revolver, a pilot's scarf, a book of pressed flowers, a compass stuck on north spinning anyway. And in the distance, glowing shapes, people, memories, echoes. They don't reach for you. They're just there, being, existing without obligation, like dreams that never bothered to finish. You drift through them. They don't ask questions. Neither do you. Somewhere in this quiet, you realize what the triangle really is. It's not a mystery. It's a permission slip. To let go of needing answers, to be in between, to exist without being pinned down by understanding. A spiritual waiting room where the clocks don't tick because time isn't the point. You exhale. Bubbles rise. Not many, just enough to mark the thought. You find a chair. Yes, a chair, underwater, upholstered, comfortable. You sit, and in front of you, a projector flickers on. The water doesn't blur the image. You see yourself, floating, walking, questioning, wondering, but never lost, just exploring, just listening, just being in motion across something ungraspable. And somehow that feels like closure, not a solution, just a kind ending to a story that never asked to be solved. Eventually, the projector dims, and the chair begins to lift, not up, not down, just away, through the currents, through time, through the soft breath of a place that has no name beyond the one we gave it. The Bermuda Triangle, a story shaped like a riddle, disguised as a location, speaking in silence. And you were always welcome here. You just didn't know it yet. You float, you breathe, you rest. And now, as your journey through this gentle mystery draws to a close, you find yourself suspended in a silence that doesn't need filling. There's no music here, no explanation chasing you. Just the low, slow hum of a universe that is perfectly fine, not making perfect sense. The Bermuda Triangle, this not quite place, this patient unknowing, drifts farther behind you now, like the fading memory of a strange dream you no longer need to understand. You don't wave goodbye. You don't have to. It knows. Let your shoulders sink just a little deeper. Let your jaw soften. Feel the breath returning, slower, quieter, longer than before. The sea, the sky, the stories, all of them are quiet now. All of them have given you permission to stop asking, permission to just be, a floating thought in the soft tide of sleep. Maybe that's what the triangle is after all. Not danger, not disappearance, just rest. The kind of rest that comes when you let go of the need to make everything make sense. So as your mind quiets, as your heartbeat slows, know that you are safe. You are not lost. You are floating, exactly where you are meant to be. And whatever questions remain can rest here too, softly, gently, in the dark. Good night, traveler. We'll see you on the next horizon. Until then, sleep well and drift easy.